Welcome to the Vocal Lab podcast with your hosts Shelby Rollins and Jason Catrone, bringing you the best from the music industry. Get ready for first-class conversations packed with exclusive techniques and transformative insights, all designed to help you reach your top note.
Everything coming out with her is exciting. So
super cool.
Yeah. But
all right, we have to capture
Ready?
this. I'm sure you've
I know,
probably
he's
already been
getting it.
rolling.
We're getting it.
he's
Splice
like,
it in, yeah, but we'll make the formal intro.
Pump it in if we need to. Yeah.
Welcome to today's podcast. Shelby, fill
Jason.
us in on our fabulous, fantastic, and lovely guest.
We
Shall we
have
say.
Heather Vassar
Hey,
here
Heather
today.
Vassar.
Hi guys.
And Heather is Senior Vice President, correct?
Yes.
Of Empire Records.
I had to think about that. Yes.
What do I do again?
I was like, what is it called? Yeah.
Which is so cool to me.
Am I senior vice president of this podcast, or would that be?
If you are, then I am the president.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Yes.
I just felt like we needed a title
Locked
next
it
to
in
her.
right now.
Can I get a pay raise?
Yeah,
Carlos?
Yes, Carlos, cut the checks.
So Heather, I met literally like almost 15 years ago, 14 years ago. And in a very different context, sort of. I mean, yes, related arts, if you will. Heather came in to Brett's studio that we coached at together, which our audience knows this, we've talked about this a million times, on 18th Avenue,
Yep.
and started taking voice lessons. And that's
Which
how I
not
met
many
you.
people know this about me. So this is
really?
new information. Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is
Guess
new.
what, Heather's audience?
She's a singer.
Had vocal lessons.
Yeah.
Heather sings. Yeah.
What kind of music were you doing at the time? Or did you even know what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I cut a Christian record.
Okay, cool.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how I started too.
Yeah.
That's how you started.
That's where he got tips for singing "Jesus Loves Me" from the little old ladies at the Baptist church.
like a dollar
Yeah.
tip.
A dollar.
Yeah, I was 2.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, she gave me
I
a
mean,
dollar. I kept doing it.
You've been making money for a long
yeah,
time.
Right, yeah,
I
totally.
like it.
Here's the best.
He's
Entrepreneur.
been a
I
paid
think-
artist
Listen, I've
for a very
been a
long
pro
time.
since I was 2.
amazing.
I've also been a pro spender and shopper and traveler.
This is
so it's
true.
just like comes in, goes out. You know. how it
This
is.
is true.
Yeah, that's why I
Anyway.
left Christian music because I was like, this does not support my spending habits.
Yeah, right.
So this 1 and 1 does not equal
Yeah.
right here. So yeah.
Where were you
gosh.
from originally?
Originally Texas.
Okay, Texas gal.
Grew up in Texas. Did my undergrad in Texas. Actually played I grew up playing sports. It was not music.
Okay, what'd you play?
And so I played softball in college.
Okay, cool.
And then I quit after my freshman year, and I was like, I was so tired of the 4 a.m. workouts. I was like, this is not for
Yeah,
me.
that doesn't sound cool.
And I don't know how I'm going to make money in this. And I didn't
Yeah.
really see a future. And so I started picking up instruments, and I was like, played guitar, and I was like, that's cool. And I was picking it up by ear, and then I played piano, and then I bought a drum set, and I could play drums. And I was like, what in the world? Like, my family's like, what is going on? And so I ended up getting approval for when I was an undergrad that all my electives I could take at a junior college that was, about an hour away, 45 minutes away. And so all my electives ended up being music classes. Because I was like, this is amazing. So I took a songwriting class. And so doing that, then I was like, this is what I want to do. It fueled that creative side of my brain that I was like, this is really cool. But I had no concept of the music business, right? I was just like, I want to move to Nashville and I'm going to be famous.
I love it.
This is it.
Yes. I mean,
then-
that's how it all started.
That's how it all
And then
started.
she made you.
Yeah. Yes.
Truly.
And so we had a handful of lessons. I don't remember how many. Do you?
I honestly, I don't.
Yeah. And then you were here for a little while. Then you moved back to Texas.
Moved back to Texas. I was released a project and tried to do the whole thing, and I was like, this isn't working out. And so moved to Texas, opened an accounting firm, and I was like, this
Is that what your undergrad degree was related to?
Really?
really?
Me too.
Really?
Yeah, I started. You may not know this.
I'm sorry.
There are
What?
Time
Heather,
out.
there are layers.
You had an accounting firm?
Jesus.
No, I didn't have a firm. I have a degree in accounting.
I have so many
Are we
questions.
I
I
related?
have so
think
many
we must
questions.
be.
I love this. I love this for us.
I have 3
Oh,
degrees. One being
I have a lot
accounting.
of questions. Okay.
But-
3 degrees? You do not have 3
I
degrees.
do. But one being accounting. And the reason I got into
Carlos,
it,
did you know this?
I did not know the
the reason,
Word.
there's layers. Stick around.
You're like an onion, Jason.
You and me
A
both.
sweet onion.
Oh my gosh.
One of us needs to be. I don't know that it's me, so I'm glad it's you.
So yeah, I started at a school in Kentucky, Transylvania University, for pre-med. Get into organic first semester sophomore year, and I wanted to be a dermatologist. I'm like, I'm out. But I'd sang my whole life, right? I knew music was there. So yeah, my advisor was just like, I had a couple business classes I liked, and he's like, you should do accounting because it's the most versatile. So here we sit.
And
I did intern at a firm.
I wanted to be. I thought I was going to school. I thought I'd be a pediatrician.
What?
Yeah. And so, like, I love kids. I was like,
Whoa.
I want to be a doctor. I'm going to be a pediatrician. And then my first semester of undergrad, I was like, absolutely not. This is a lot of school. I am not here
that's what
for
I
this.
said.
I
Me
was
too.
like, no, thank you. And so then
Me
I was
too.
like, oh, I flipped to business.
And to the same point,
Wow.
I was offered to be on the swim team. I wasn't a great swimmer, but they had a small scholarship. But those 4 a.m. workouts, out.
Are y'all like
I
siblings?
think we're
I
siblings.
think we are. I think
We're gonna have to do a DNA
Are you
test.
twins? This is kind of weird.
It is so
I also
weird.
did not know this,
amazing.
and now I'm like, Jason likes. I'm going to out Jason a little bit here. He likes to complain about how he's forgetting to invoice people all the time, and it takes
All
him
the time.
forever to like invoice
I mean,
the
that
client.
doesn't mean we're good at it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like,
There's a
you have
reason
an
I'm not
accounting
doing it.
degree. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, it means we can do it really well for someone else.
Yes.
But that
Gotcha.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean we can do it well for
Yeah.
ourselves.
I told
That's
Jason
more
he
of it.
needs to get a personal assistant for Christmas. That's his on his
You and me
Christmas
both.
list.
You and me, you and
We
me
should
both.
share one.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, anyway. Okay. So back to Heather.
Yes.
But wow, I just learned something about you that I didn't know. You are like an onion.
It's true.
What were we talking about? Oh, you moved
Oh,
back
we
to
met.
Texas.
So we
Back to
started-
Texas, the
you-
accounting
yeah.
firm.
Yep.
Start an accounting
Accounting
firm. And
firm.
how long did you live in Texas?
2 years,
that time?
almost exactly.
Okay.
So I left here September of 2012, and I moved back here almost September of 2014. So
Okay.
2 years exactly.
Mhm.
Got the firm up and running, and I was like, that's great. And
Not what
this,
I want to do.
this kills my soul.
Yeah.
And
can't imagine.
I miss Nashville. I miss the creativity. I miss
Sure.
being able to go see live music. And
Yeah.
obviously you can in Dallas, but it was very suburban. There was a lot of families, and it just wasn't where I was at in the place of my life. And so I was like, I need to go do this for me. I have no idea what this looks like, but so I had a friend tell me, they were like, well, the major labels, they take Belmont students first. Like that's whose resumes they look at first.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I already have a degree and I hated school, you know? And I was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, I'll get into grad school and then I'll get my job and then I'll just bail out of grad school and, you know.
Yeah.
And so honestly, I applied, got into Belmont. I started my MBA program, and first semester I started working at Universal.
What?
And
That is
Did you bail?
Crazy.
I did not bail.
You finished.
I did not bail. I ended up really loving it, and so I think going to school later was really helpful because I had already had some work experience under my belt. And so when I did that, I was like, oh, I love this, and an MBA is not going to hurt. In fact, that's only going to help me forever and ever. And
What was
so
your MBA in?
It was a master in business.
Music
I
business?
do wish I had that.
Just business.
Just
so it
business.
could be on the wall.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
it's nice. I mean, mine's not hanging on the wall, but
Yeah.
it's
I don't
somewhere,
have it. I
and
mean,
it's somewhere.
I don't know where my diploma is.
I don't
I
either
couldn't
now
tell you.
that you say
Maybe
that.
my mom has it. Mom, do you
Yeah.
have my diploma?
But I do want an honorary doctorate at some point.
I actually, I have been
that'd be
thinking
cool.
about going back.
Really?
And so, yeah, I probably will just to get a
That's cool.
doctorate.
I just want the honorary.
Yeah.
Start
I don't
calling you
mind that
doctor.
as
Then
well.
you can be a doctor.
Yeah, see?
Then we get our doctor.
I don't know if my ego needs that though. I don't need. I'll be like, you have to call me doctor. I don't know.
Dr. Heather.
I wouldn't want to be called doctor.
That sounds amazing.
I don't like it when
great.
people call me sir. Now I'm like,
Well, I don't either.
I don't-
It just makes me
I mean, I
feel
don't
feel
like
like
when
a
people call
sir.
me sir, but
right?
right.
you know.
I don't either. Makes me
I don't
feel
get it
old
often,
and
but-
like a man. Yes, but when people call me ma'am,
Yeah.
when young people, I mean, having
It's young
kids,
people.
young children
Yeah.
now will, like my kids' friends will call me ma'am or Mrs. And I'm like, no, no, no,
like-
no, 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 no.
No, just
Yeah.
Shelby.
No, I'll be like,
Just shell,
because I'm
shell.
trying to teach my kids to call other adults more respectfully. I'll say, Miss Shelby
Carlos
is
liked that
totally
one.
fine.
Yeah. You're like,
Shell.
yeah.
Made Carlos
I've
laugh.
actually never had that as a nickname. I've had a lot of nicknames in my time, but that's not ever been one of them.
It should be.
It should. I think you're right. It
Shell.
has, it's quite
Shell.
a ring.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so you got this job
so
at
you got-
Universal.
So I got the job,
And what was the job?
digital marketing.
Okay.
So I started in digital marketing there.
Did you already
interesting, 'cause
were you
that's
getting
not-
good at that, or is
Yeah, I
that was
was
an
gonna say,
opening
that's not
and
what
took
you were
it?
doing before.
No, I mean I've always been like the tech savvy one of the family. Like I was the one that would set up the laptops as soon as you get a new iPhone. Like
That's why we have Carlos here.
Yeah, it's and
Maybe we're related.
when I mean one of my very first jobs was building websites. Like I built a website for like my granddad had a farm, and so I built his website, and like I built my own website when I was an artist, and so and
That's
I was doing social media. YouTube was like really taking off at the time, and I really wish that I had like just started doing content.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I would have the followers, you know?
Yeah.
It really wasn't the focus, and so I just naturally I could do it, and so I kind of fell into that, and I've always been sort of what I feel a little bit ahead of the curve in sort of like what platforms are taking off, what kind of keeping my ear to the ground of what that is. So it was very natural.
Cool.
It's interesting just because I have that right side and left side. I can be very creative within the digital space, and then like the numbers of
I think it's the best.
I love it.
I don't have that so much.
I don't either.
But I'm quite envious.
You would have to though.
I mean, I do as far as like numbers are concerned. I just don't like to build things. I say this all the time because you feel my hands.
Oh,
They're real soft.
that's amazing.
Yeah, right?
That's amazing. Like,
No, it's true. Everyone always comments on how soft my
They
hands
really
are.
are.
Right? Shelby, feel my hand. And so it's
She's like,
because
"No."
there's a reason. Like my dad was a mayor and a businessman. He didn't like to build things. He always hired people to do stuff. So I didn't grow up doing things like that.
Shaking hands and holding babies.
Yeah, that's what I grew up doing. And so I'm really good at that. And I have this saying, if everyone in the world dug ditches, right?
Yeah.
The world would be a big hole.
Is this your saying?
No, it's a saying.
Saying.
is that yours or is this like patent?
No, I should patent it. I say that. Sometimes
on
when
a
people make
coffee
fun of
mug.
my hands, or my friends will be like, "Oh, Jason doesn't like to work. He's not a hard
I
worker."
see.
Right?
A
So,
real son of a ditch.
so to the point, like,
See,
I
I'm
do
the
have this side of
opposite.
that.
I'm the opposite though.
Oh.
Like, I mean, my friends will give me so much shit because they're like, you can pay somebody to do your lawn,
But you're gonna go do it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's so therapeutic. Like the world that I feel like I live in, and like the label and music and all of that, of like traveling so much that when I get home, like
You like little projects.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always probably have one. But even just like pulling weeds.
See,
it's so healing. It's so therapeutic.
But I've never
for me.
mowed the yard because I'm allergies. They learned this recently.
Bubble boy.
I was in a bubble when I was little, almost in a bubble. So I've never had to do that either.
Okay.
One time I did try to mow my grandma's yard just wanted to ride the mower. I'd never
Did
done
you have
that.
to put on a hazmat suit?
No, I wasn't going to mow it. I just wanted to like drive the mower. And I get on this thing and it takes off real fast and I hit a root on a tree and it like totally like janks off the blade.
Blade?
Yeah, so they never let me on a mower again.
I mean, listen, we all have our own strengths. Some of us, you
Yes.
don't have to. That's
Yeah.
You have
that
precious
works,
baby hands.
Yeah.
and that works for you.
That
I love that
works
for
for
you.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, mine or not.
Should have been a hand model, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's still time.
There's time. But I do have that analytical side, but
Yeah.
not as much as you, clearly. So I think it's really cool that you have both the creative and the analytical. So it seems somewhat balanced. So you're out there just, riding the lines, trying to do it all.
Always. Yeah,
Figure it
I mean,
out.
of course, now being like, running the division here, I wish I could be, I mean, I would, if I could just be in the studio all day, every day,
Sure.
like, of course, I would love that.
Yeah.
Just to live in that world.
Of course.
But so I feel like I live a little bit more in the analytical world, but that also, I balance that really well with even brainstorming music video ideas and random social ideas to do of like, oh, we should do this, right? All the way to like when we were about to launch a bar song with Shaboozey earlier this year, it was like, what do we need? We need something tangible for fans. It's like a bandana. We're going to Stagecoach. We're doing all these things, and even brainstorming even like something like that of a concept, I get to play in and out of a little bit, and then at the same time be like, but here's the budget.
Right,
so,
yeah.
And there comes your accounting degree.
And there's the accounting degree.
Okay,
Yeah.
but so you just
Brilliant.
dropped a little nugget there
Nugget
of Shaboozey.
Shaboozey.
Yeah.
So back us up just a little bit.
Still at
Wait,
university.
we
Shaboozey
went
nuggets,
from
that's the
Universal
candy
to
brand.
Shaboozey. So what is that? What was that? 10 years? What did
Sell
you
it
say?
at Buc-ee's. Shaboozey nuggets.
Listen, I have lists.
Listen, she's got so many
I've
funny
got
things
lists,
I can.
lists, and
Yeah.
lists, yeah. I've seen all kinds of things. Shabrunchy, like we've seen. I've seen a lot.
nice.
Shakoozis, yeah.
Shakoozis.
Oh.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's yes.
The marketing ideas are endless.
Endless.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Truly, I have a note on my phone that is just
It's just Shaboozey marketing.
yeah. So you may see all of that.
Oh my gosh.
Sooner or later.
Especially if we see the Shaboozey nuggets. What did you call them?
Shaboozey nuggets.
Yeah,
at
Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's.
At Becky's
That
specifically.
could take a turn. We'll have to workshop that one. We'll throw that in the
Please
pile.
invite me to the workshop.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you're at Universal.
Universal.
Catch us quickly from Universal to Empire.
Yeah,
the
Universal,
present day.
I was in digital marketing for several years, and then I ended up running their strategy and research. So back to the numbers side of it. When we were running all these digital campaigns, I was kind of like, is this working? Do we know if this is working? We're kind of running these campaigns without really looking retroactively, and also the industry was changing so fast. Spotify came out.
Right.
So all of
because it was all during that.
it was all during that
period.
time. So we were
Wow.
our release schedules weren't shifting, but should have been, right? And so we were kind of going like, okay, these artists were blowing up on YouTube and Facebook, and then we had these artists that are sitting here, and we're like, how do we kind of make
Having
it all
crazy times.
yeah, how do we all make it make sense? And because of my numbers background, I can look at spreadsheets of numbers, ungodly amount of numbers, and find the story in there and find the like strategy within that.
That's cool.
And so we ended up creating a whole department for like a whole new site at Universal of like strategy and research. And so I did a ton of, ended up being far too numbers heavy than I wanted to do for any more years than I did. And so, but it allowed me to, I'd be in New York and I'd be in LA, and I'm sitting with the teams of Interscope and all of, the other labels that was pop music and just ahead, because country.
Well, it had to like bring this extra layer of value that you brought that every department was seeing. Like, who's this chick in Nashville that's
well, they were
this
a
out?
lot of it. They were already doing it, right? Because country music at the time sat 6 to 8 years behind the other genres, and so what would happen in hip hop would then, in 6 years, or what would happen in R&B in 6 years, that's what would finally then take place within country.
Yeah, I
So-
saw that in musical trends for sure.
And it still happens, right? I can see now, working for a majority of a hip hop label, I can see how that transcends down into our world. It's obviously escalated like that. The like turn has expedited there, but it's not. It's still, we're still behind the curve essentially, and so. When I was doing that, that was amazing. I got to see kind of how everybody else was rolling things out, and so then I was really wanting. I could see where the industry was going, and I was like, "This isn't it. Where I'm at, this isn't it." And I don't want to just die in the numbers, because I would do something for Carrie Underwood's team, and they would have the same product manager as Luke Bryan's, and they were like, do that, but do that for Luke, and then do that, but do that for Stapleton, and do that, and do that. So it kind of ended up being a lot of rinse and repeating.
Yeah.
That didn't feel very creative. And so, but I was able to, and what I said was like, I'm just a storyteller. I can just take those numbers and create the story and narrative from it, and where it makes sense, and where it's also very tangible then for the team and also the artist to go, oh, this is how this becomes my narrative. This is how this feels authentic to me, and then we run with that. So doing that, then at the time, I was like, this isn't where the industry is going. We need to be moving quicker, faster. Like, we need to be operating differently. And so I knew being an independent wasn't palatable for the town. Being an independent artist, I was like, nobody wanted that. It was so taboo. It was like, no, you don't want to be independent. Nobody can make it as an independent, not at the level that you want to.
Yeah.
But I had met my CEO now, and he was like, we want to invest in the town. And I was like, you're a hip hop distribution company. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. And I was like, and this was March of 2019. By November of 2019, they had flown me out to San Francisco, which is where our headquarters are. And they're like, okay, we want to do it. And they had already been doing it, but they started to need like just boots on the ground. Because I was telling him, I was like, Nashville, you have to be present. Like, it's relationships, it's community. Like, that's how you make change within this town, is like you like become within it, right? And even signing artists, they want that personal connection. They want that face. And so by December of 2019, I left Universal. And before I did, I sat with my CEO and I said, look, I need to know before I jump ship from a major, because I was kind of, and we had all of the A-listers, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how I leave this, except that I knew that how we were moving was not how the future of music was going to move. And so I thought we would jump within 2 years. I was wrong. It took us 4.5, but that's beside the point. It took us a little longer. But when I did, I said, you know, I don't want to leave Universal and you decide after just a couple years, like, hey, I'm not going to invest in the town anymore, which means
pulling the plug.
Yeah. And I was like, I need you to know we're not going to make money. We're not going to be profitable for at least 5 years. Like, you have to give me 5 years. I will need 5 years to build this so that we're in the black. And going back to our accounting term. And
I actually know what that means. That's where Black Friday comes from.
Is it?
Yeah, it's where all
I didn't know that.
like
Oh, I didn't
like
either. See, look at the sales.
historically,
They'll be
actually
dropping
don't know if
some
this
trivia.
is true anymore, but historically it was when most retail companies moved into the black was Black
because of the
Friday. Because
holiday
it was like the
season.
biggest shopping day of the year. Yeah, out of the red.
Yeah.
Became profitable for the year, which is like really slow, but whatever. I don't know if that's true anymore, but that's where the term came from.
And that's what I told him. I was like, I needed 5. And so I can remember I had the conversation with a couple of my bosses at Universal, and they were like, call us in a year when that fails. Right? Because I was moving independent, right?
Yeah, of
and
course.
starting.
That's
and
a big risk.
It's huge risk.
I really didn't have anything to lose, though, to be honest. I felt like in my career, I've always been a bit of a risk taker in that it's like, especially if I can see it. I know on my account it's not going to fail. I'm going to die trying. I may die, but it's not going to die,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
let me make sure I'm correct in this. Did Empire not really exist here until they brought you in to create it in Nashville?
Not like boots on the ground per se. They had some artists that they were working with, but there wasn't a full team here.
Okay.
And so,
Yeah.
but it was after they hired me, then we slowly have added team members as we've grown the roster.
Yeah.
So it's not been like, oh, they've moved a bunch of people here. We've got this, you know.
Yeah.
It was very a more thoughtful and strategic approach of like, as we build, we'll just slowly build out the team.
Yeah.
And so
That was 2019 that you moved over
That I
to
moved over.
Empire.
Yep.
And then you mentioned, I can't remember if this is before or not, that you mentioned Shaboozey in 2020.
2020.
So let's talk about the rise.
yeah.
Because that's probably the biggest name. Well, maybe not anymore, but it was because you've got Dolly.
That had to be a
As
big.
well.
That had to be a big stake in the ground for you to be like, okay, we're going
It
to
is now, I
we're
would
going to have
say.
a splash in this town, and we're going to be here for a while. When you start to see that take off.
Sure. Yeah, but that's only been this year.
Well,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
This is 5 years
Oh
later.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
This is 2020. Sorry.
Right,
Yeah.
2020 was when he kind of came on your radar.
Yeah. So received a SoundCloud link, and I was like, man, this is cool. This is really different. I don't know anything about this guy, and so I flew to LA and met with him, and that's when LA was shut down.
Shut
yeah.
down.
And
Well, you had to have really liked him to go fly to LA to meet somebody you'd never heard of off of a SoundCloud link.
oh, it was really cool. It was
Yeah.
really cool. It was really different. It wasn't fully produced by any means yet, but it was really cool. And it was like, okay, like this could be, it's 6'5" Nigerian black country artist. Like,
Yes.
I'm like,
Sounds great.
He is really tall.
yes,
I
I'm
didn't
like,
realize he was that tall. That's crazy.
I'm like, yes, it's worth flying to see
Yeah.
what the,
What is
conversation
this?
is all
Yes,
about.
What is happening?
And that's really kind of, I don't sign many that are right down the middle country. We're a little left of center because especially at the time, we don't do country radio first. We don't take any of the typical path. We build it culturally, we build it digitally, and radio then falls into place. And we've been a very good example of that, of like where it's the town, and especially in 2020, operated so differently.
Yeah.
I lost several signings because artists was like, "Are you going to take me to radio?" And I was like, when it makes sense, absolutely. But it doesn't make sense. I will put $2 million into digital campaigns before we do that into any sort of radio, or 200,000, right? And so, because at the time it was at least $1 million, and now at least it's shrunk a little bit, but in terms of just radio promo cost and that. And so it's like, I don't want to spend 200 if I don't have organic fans and being like, I need you selling theaters. I need you selling, you know, and actually building this on a cultural level and a movement, and then radio will play. It's sort of, you know, I always say, and I tell artists this all the time, of like, it's balancing. We're up against algorithm companies. That's what Spotify is. That is what, and we have great partners and everything there, but it's all algorithms. YouTube.
Yeah, they're tech companies.
All social media. Yeah.
TikTok, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's balancing that without sacrificing the art, without sacrificing the creative and the craft of the artist, right? And so it's being able to play in both, and it's always a balancing act. Like, it's always of like, what can we do that doesn't sacrifice and back and forth? And so, but yeah, so I flew to LA, and I was like, this is really cool. Let's do it, you know? So signed him in 2020, and was signing several artists, right? I mean, we worked with Tennille Arts, and that was our first country radio #1 in the middle of COVID. It was also our first platinum record. And so we started getting some of these small wins as we were building. And so, which was kind of like, you know, that kept me moving and motivated of like, okay, like this can work. This is working.
Yeah. And was he releasing songs like as early as 2020?
We started releasing, and we released the first album 2021 and 2022 as we dropped the first album. Did really well. We started getting like, you know, the first one we dropped was Beverly Hills and went viral. It was a little bit more on the hip hop space, and so was that first album. We knew coming off of his previous project that we needed to bridge a gap. We needed to bridge, especially for the fans, so it wasn't such a harsh shift. Sonically and musically, we needed to kind of figure out where this sat.
Was he wanting to move more country?
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was always a conversation. He's a just natural storyteller.
Yeah, I can tell that singing live.
I can just, I still have and remember he handed me a film, like manila envelope with a like full film script. And like,
wow.
He's that much of a creative director, you know, and he handed me this, and I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? You know, like I don't know what you want me to do with this yet.
Steven Spielberg, but obviously.
Exactly. Yeah, that was kind of the expectation of like, well, let's make a movie, you know? And I was like, okay, one step at a time, you know? And like, or 5 steps at a time, but, you know, 0 to a million was a lot. So, funny enough, I was just with his team, and I told his manager, I was like, I still have that. And he was like, you can't give that to anybody. I was like, absolutely not. That's mine. It's mine. That's probably going to get framed. And, you know, so.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's such a testament to the development, the artist development game that's really not being done, right?
No, it's not.
At all.
And so.
In fact, that space has transitioned to a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's fallen out of the label space.
Yeah.
Right, and so we have artists coming to us that need that and want that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's an interesting transition there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were like, especially this year, we dropped Bar Song in April, and we had already been.
That's it? It was just April?
Yeah, it was
April.
Gosh, that's so fast.
April. We just hit our 19th week at #1 on Billboard Hot 100.
Hey, look at that!
That's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, it made history. We like, it's legendary.
Wow.
Yeah, we tied. Lil Nas and Billy Ray hit 19 weeks.
No
in
way.
2019.
Oh my gosh.
We're the first solo artist ever to hit 19 weeks.
Whoa. Okay, that's crazy.
Off of an independent record label too.
Yeah.
Not a major.
Not a major. We have no ties. Like we, you know.
That's wild.
Fully independent.
Amazing. Congrats.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's legendary. It's
what do you think
exciting.
led to from like, you know, the Bridge project of sort of like a little bit more leaning hip hop, that the 2021 record to Bar Song? Like, what was that in terms of development and like strategy that, and the role that you played in that? Yeah,
I knew. Well, I'll say this. I brought in fact, I called one of our new A&Rs in between that time frame, and Empire had just hired him, and I knew I was out of my depth on some of the A&Ring. I was like, look, like we got through this first project. However, I don't know that it was best served within that. So I truly, it was bringing in and encouraging, like, bring in management, let's bring in this A&R. And it was really kind of putting the right pieces in place to make a very like magical situation. And I think it's a lot of times it's about putting, and I tell artists all the time, you have to have those key players. It takes more than just you. It takes more than just one person. It takes more than just like
Yes.
your homie managing. It's like there's a lot at play, and it all has to like synergistically work.
Right.
Sure.
And so a lot of that was the conversation of, and that's when, Boozy started working with Range, and then I brought in Sock Passe. I was like, hey man, and I can still remember this day when I called him. I had just landed in LA, and I was like, I'm out of my depth in this, and I know that this isn't something I can A&R, and like I need your ears on it. I need your finesse. I'm not the finesse. Ghazi and I, my CEO, talk about it all the time of I'm learning it, but that's not my forte of I'm just like business.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's some finesse that,
Yeah.
So I think the older I get, maybe I'll acquire that, but I don't know. It's like, no, I have the highest expectations and I can see a path how to get there. And so it's just kind of like, yes, let's knock this out. Let's do this. And so it really was adding a bunch of the key players there that we could to like finish out the team that allowed it to like become what it was. And so between the last record and then last October is when we started rolling into his next album. And we dropped the first one. It's still Let It Burn. It's still an incredible record. It's one of my favorites. And we had the album done. It's like, okay, the album's done, and he wrote a bar song in January.
By himself or with other people?
Other people.
Okay.
So they went into a session. He felt like he was missing something, and we had set the album date for May, and I was like, we have to drop this in May, of course, just strategically of like right before CMA Fest, and all these things that kind of go into play. And so then when I was at the Grammys in LA, somebody played it on their phone. They're like, what do you think of this? And I was like, oh, I haven't heard it yet. And they had just finished it. It was just a rough demo. And like they were like, do you think we should take this one to country radio? And I'm like, ooh. I was like, here's the deal. It's an incredible song. We knew it was a really special song from the jump. I mean, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, that's amazing. I was like, I don't know how to answer that because it's so polarizing. Country radio is either going to love it and they're going to play the hell out of it, or they're going to hate it. And it just depends on how much the industry has progressed and how much...
It's got to be the right time.
It's got to be the right time.
Yeah.
Well, and just
to your point of like country being behind everything else.
Yeah, and I'm like, are they gonna take to this? Are they gonna be accepting? And that's a lot of the questions that we get, like, how many no's did you get? And we didn't get no's, even with the metrics that we've had. We didn't get no's, but it was like, there is also skepticism within that because they're like, is he country? Is this? And that's probably one of the more frustrating questions is like, it's a great record. It's an amazing record.
Yeah.
And how he speaks, once you meet him, you're like, oh, this is in his bones. Like it's in his DNA.
Yeah.
Like, so it's wild how much the industry, like the genre is playing catch up within that world that isn't happening within the rest of the industry.
Yeah. Wow. And then it obviously, country radio, like, really took off with it. It was a big hot yes.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, we waited a month after a release before we officially started working it. But we built the demand for it, right? And the fans built the demand for it.
Sure.
They were, we had radio calling us going, can we play it?
So then it worked, like your whole initial strategy of like you're not going straight to radio, you're creating the cultural fan base, like that then served you and that it actually worked in your favor.
We'll do that every time.
And you didn't even have to like try so much as like the strategy you created played itself out and you had radio knocking on your door.
Yes.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think, I always tell artists of like, when there's a fan base, when there are listeners, when there's an audience there, they're going to play it.
They're going to play it.
They're going to playlist it. They're going to play it.
Right.
Like
They have to.
And that only helps their numbers. That only, that drives to their playlist, that drives. And so it's like, that's the focus, is being able to take an artist's brain and go, don't focus on the playlist because that, like, let's look long term. Let's look at, are you selling tickets? Are you reaching fans that it's connecting on an authentic and an emotional level that then can translate into all of the rest of the the industry side of things, that will all come into play. Now it takes a lot of setup and a lot of people to make sure that that's ready, right?
Yeah.
But for an artist and for a creative, it's like, if your focus is there, you've already lost sight.
Right.
You know, and so it's a little bit of like, that's a lot of what I feel like I do is help kind of like remind. I'm like kind of tailoring that the like, you know, insight on it of like, wait. We need to build this a fan at a time. That's the goal, right?
Yeah,
And that's
the long game.
Yeah.
That's sustainable.
That's who's gonna buy tickets. That's who's gonna buy merch. That's who's gonna stick around.
Always going to be there.
They will.
Yeah.
And
They're
it's
always going to be there.
And so it's like one at a time. Even if it's like the most like avid 5,000, I'll take that all day long over a fake 100,000.
Oh,
100%.
for sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and so it's just like but keeping that into focus of like what that is super important.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. Well, I think that's been one of the fun things of the industry with the advent of streaming and social media and everything is that it's every day. We all are. I'll see someone post something, I'm like, who's this? And I see they sold out a room of like 3,000 people, never heard of them, never seen them.
Yeah.
They may have like 200,000 followers. And it's like, where did this person, there's so many blips on there's so many radars now, right?
There's so many people in the world.
There's so many people.
Well, it's now artists have full accessibility to them.
Yes.
Which is a beautiful thing. It's a little scary sometimes on my side of it, right?
Oh, for sure.
Accessibility is a dangerous game sometimes. And so there's a lot of responsibility within that I think artists have to learn as well. Just creatives have to learn of the responsibility that comes with that accessibility. But
would you say that Shaboozey was kind of a breakthrough artist for Empire in a large way?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you guys were the ones who signed him to begin with. Was that his first record deal?
No, he was on Republic before.
Oh, okay, cool. So he shifted over to you guys. Obviously, that's where his big breakthrough has come as an artist. Yeah. It was under your label. And it almost seems like it's kind of a mutually beneficial thing where y'all helped set him up for success. And now his success has put you guys on a spotlight as well in the world as like a record-breaking indie label.
Yeah.
That now has Dolly Parton on the roster, which is fabulous. And so how do you feel like that's evolved? Well, let me ask this question. Now, in looking at 2025, obviously labels are always looking into the future and have things planned well in advance for things that they're teeing up for people down the road on your roster. But what do you feel like has changed as a result of just since April, right, of 2024? How has that changed your outlook as a label for 2025 and beyond?
Oh, that's a really good question. I thought I was busy. And I was in a way, I think building something, I've always operated with a chip on my shoulder, like something to prove. And it's funny, even within,
Let's talk about that.
Even, you can sit with my therapist on that. We still go through that.
We want to dive into that.
We go deep here. Tell us more.
You're in tears before you know it.
Cut the camera.
I'm working through that. Maybe that'll be part 2. When I have more of an insight myself, that's when I'll bring you guys into it. But it's the same, right? I think I had somebody ask me, they were like, are you soaking this in? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
And are you taking this in? And it's like, yes, and it's kind of like, what else can we do? What's next? What does this look like? And not only how do we capitalize on the moment, but how do we because I think too, it's always reminding of everything ebbs and flows.
It sure does.
And so country is the hot thing right now, but that's going to go away, right? Yeah. We may be, we're on top of the world right now, but that'll also go away. And so I think it's just being able to be reminded of that. I think a lot of my personal work that I do, and it's wild kind of how this year happened, it was just in January that I was kind of I realized I was death gripping how this was going to go. And I was death gripping not only my personal life, but I was death gripping work. And so I had this stronghold on it that it just felt like everything was so suffocating. Wow. And then in January, I got to the place where I just learned to just let that go. And I let that go and kind of let things out of my provision be out of my provision, and things that I can control and things that and take responsibility for that, and bust my ass at the same time. And I always tell people and even artists, I'm like, I will work harder than you, and that's okay, but you should be right there beside me.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to take both of us, especially on an independent level.
Right.
It's a partnership. It's
Right.
not a oh, you've signed with the label, now you can kind of sit back.
We're not
it's
the
like
behemoth beast that just moves things through.
well, and I think you're seeing.
water.
I mean, even the behemoth beasts aren't moving.
No, they're
things,
not,
You know,
right?
and so it's.
But
kinda,
artists think that way a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
bigger is better.
Mm-hmm.
We all can think that in ways.
Sure.
But,
Sure.
Yeah.
You
Or
know.
budgets don't exist once you get to
Yeah.
a certain level.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think for 2025, it's I had hoped that, and I had told Gazi like by 5 when we were in April, we had just released Bar Song. It was 4.5. It had been 4.5 years, and when I saw him at Billboard Power Player, I said I did it in 4.5. Like, you promised me 5, and I did it in 4.5. And he was like, oh, he was like, you did. He was like,
what
it's
a
amazing.
cool
That's
moment
awesome.
for you and him.
Yeah.
Do you feel
Right?
like that's why you kind of came to that tipping point in January of like, the clock is now ticking of my
Oh,
5th
sure.
year of we've got to be profitable.
Yep.
I have to fulfill the commitment that I made.
Yeah.
Is that where a lot of
I'm
that stress came from?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so. Without really intentionally or even like consciously knowing that, of just the pressure of like something's got to work and got to not just work, but it has to sustain, right? I
Yeah.
needed something that we kept having some of these like other wins. We made history every year that I've been at Empire.
That's awesome.
Every single year in
Yeah.
some capacity, right? We like a history making moment. It's like great. And what's going to sustain and what's going to last.
Yeah.
And so, and I also knew like with this success, like you mentioned Dolly, like it opens doors and it opens opportunity, because I think it proves to artists that they can operate at the absolute, not just highest level in country. We're operating at a global level. Like from the jump, we take a very global approach, right? We have a global superstar within
Yes, you
him.
do. Yes.
And so
And her.
yeah. And so, but those doors only open at the same time as you can prove like you can also handle it, right? And that you can rise to that. And I think it's just constantly, I tell the team a lot, we're not looking at what the competition is doing. We're not looking at, it really is of like, no, our job is to set the bar and then we reset the bar.
Yeah.
That is what I tell my team here in Nashville, even within our teams. We work really closely with our team in Africa and Asia. And so, but I'm like, we set the bar.
Yeah.
Our division is who sets the bar. And that probably is just a testament to how competitive I am.
Yeah.
But at this, like that's the athlete background of like,
I was getting ready to say that.
yeah,
That's the
like
athlete in you.
we'll set it and then we reset it. And so it's a constant, I think for 2025, it's like, oh shit, the bar's really high now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, what is that? And so, yeah, but I think it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of continuing to do what we're doing and signing great artists, making great music.
Yeah.
But I think this is the cool part too, because we always have these fibers come through this podcast. It's sitting here hearing you tell this story in the past 5 years and these goals and these like you taking the big leaps and the jumps and in all of it, from leaving softball to, I mean, everything. It's like, I'm always amazed and I love, it's one of my favorite things in life to step back a little bit and see how you stepping into your moment and your time every time, and how God, the universe, whoever you're looking up to up there met you in those moments.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Wild.
It's so, wild is a good word. It's so wild for you to be like, give me 5 years.
Yeah. And 4.5.
Like
I'm either that
that's
stubborn or
it's part of that, right? Because you were the personality and the person to be a part of this, this championing this cause, right? But it's like, no, this was meant to be, especially when it's a big song like that.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so cool too. Like when you have a breakthrough song with a breakthrough artist like that, that song's gonna be around forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be here forever. And
You might as well go ahead and learn it if you
you're
haven't.
part right. You're part of that. And you were the person to help steer that from all your other experience, from again, softball to accounting to lessons with Shelby.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm like, don't sing it like that.
Yeah, right?
Shelby would tell you otherwise.
Yeah, It's such a cool thing to step back and have this little like aerial view of everything you just told us. 'Cause it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's been. I'm so grateful.
Yes.
I'm so grateful. You know, I know how hard I work, and I know how hard the people around me work, and I also just feel super lucky and fortunate that I get to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and it does. It's being reminded of, because a lot of times I don't take the time to stop and go, like,
That's
man,
fair.
like.
Yeah, I think we all do that. Or don't do that.
Even going back to of like what I know, the notes that I give back on songs. I mean, I get songs sent to me 24/7, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and it's
Especially now.
and it's not until well, and it's not until new people enter my life that they're like, "How much music do you listen to?" And I'm like, honestly, it's such an insane amount. It's constant, right? But it has fine-tuned my ears that like I know immediately. And so I always say, like, I know, I've yet to be wrong. I know a hit song when I hear one. Now, I may not know that it's a hit. Like, if I hear a song and if I'm like, that's a hit, it's a hit. Like, it ends up being a hit, right? Sometimes I miss it and it ends up being a hit and I've missed it.
Sure.
But it's never been flipped of like, oh, that's a hit and
it was a
and
flop.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's always been the other way. And so I'm super grateful for that, but that all goes back to like even being able to hear things, right? Of even being able to speak to artists of, you know, there was something that happened in the studio not too long ago where I was like, what is that? I was like, is that a harmonica? Is that, and like even the A&R, like the artists, they were like, no, we didn't do a harmonica. And I was like, no, there's for sure a very low harmonica on this. And I was like, that needs to be louder in the intro, right? I was like, put that in here. And they're like, how do you know? Because I don't live in the studio world very much or as often as I want. And so, but
like once upon a time I sang.
But yeah, you know, and then it's funny when artists find that out, they were like, wait a second, you know?
You're a sheep.
Yeah.
They were like,
clothing.
I Googled you.
They were like, that's how you know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's all the little moments of the vocal lessons to the guitar lessons to the piano lessons to get to then here.
Yeah.
I think it builds respect too of like, I can speak into that, and I also know,
of course,
and it's also what's made me really good at my job now.
Yeah.
And so it's when I'm working with a new artist like Cece, who's honestly just, I'm like, okay, now you talk about 2025, and it's like, yeah, now it's doing it again.
Yes.
Right? Now it's like, okay, let's do it again, and we broke a 6'5" Nigerian descent black country man. Let's break a buzz cut boots, you know, like girl talking about her dad's Colt 45. Like, yeah, let's run,
let's go there.
you know, let's do that. So it's all about kind of trying to defy the odds of not taking any sort of cookie cutter approach and going like, it's just great music.
Safe place.
Love that.
Yeah.
You were talking about
playing the fringes, you know?
Yeah.
I always say you toe the line without going over it, but if you're not toeing the line, you're not really pushing the limits.
Yeah, for sure. You have to kind of take everybody, including yourself first, to your own personal edge.
Yeah.
And find out, like, what is my capacity? And my business coach says your capacity expands at your extremities. And it's like not until you push into what is that, you know, it's like, any mom will tell you, like, giving birth is one of those type of defining moments of discovering your inner strength. And that's where mama bear stuff comes from. And strong as a mother is like, because you don't know until you have had to do something that sort of defies what most people would consider normal human limitations.
Yeah.
Like, not like giving birth is defying normal human limitations. That's literally how we're all here, is we all had to be birthed, right? But I'm just saying, nobody would willingly put themselves into that type of a scenario unless it were unto something bigger than they are, greater than their own, you know, life and doing something bigger than themselves. And so finding those extremities and you expand in those places, and you don't expand when you're looking at something really small. But I think, you know, to the point of you were making of like, you said, give me 5 years, you did it in 4.5. And you were talking before that about the industry itself being sort of behind the curve of progressive music and what was kind of coming down the pipe in pop and R&B and stuff like that. Country was a little bit behind. Yeah. And you were looking in many ways at, maybe this was the strategic mindset of the accounting background and all of that, of being able to see numbers and what is 1 + 1 = 2. So I can, if I extrapolate that further down the road, I can probably predict a trend.
Yeah.
I can probably assume that one of these things is going to happen. Kind of the way that you did, and I actually would love for you to speak on this. When you were talking about, I look at numbers and figure out how to create something creative in a video. And I kind of was like, wait a second, talk about that more. How does that work? But like you were able to see, I'm guessing, in trends of those kinds of things, you had to be at the right place at the right time and be the right person in that present day for that opportunity to take place. It's not just being at the right place at the right time is 2 of 3 factors. That third one is being the person you have to be to walk through those doors.
Well, and I would say there's 4, then it's also luck. Right, like there's a bit of serendipitous, but then there's also and it's being the right person in that place, and then it's also what I say is, especially this year has been a great example of you prepare, you plan, you prepare, you are consistent, right? And a lot of that is being able to pivot really quickly, right? This was when we found out Shaboozey was going to be on the Beyonce project. It was a matter of like weeks. It wasn't even a matter of it was like days. We found out on Monday, and Wednesday was the the track listing announced, right? It was that fast.
Yeah.
We knew preemptively, right, that there was a possibility that we couldn't speak of, but we were already in album cycle. We were already working. And for me, I'm like, you can't wait on somebody or something. You have to just work. And if you work and if you're consistent, if you keep that, it's like what I tell teams is we will outwork all day long. Because it's just showing up is so much of a part of this game.
Yep.
And so it's like you show up and you work, the chips will all start to fall into place wherever and it may not be in the timing you think, right? Like I can say I wish this would have happened on album 1 with Shaboozey, but it didn't, right? Like had he never released after that, we wouldn't be here. However, if we didn't release that first project, we wouldn't be here either. So for artists, it's always having that conversation. And it just honestly in life in general of like just you keep showing up and you keep showing up and you keep showing up and you evolve and you adjust and you as long as you're showing up authentically, then I think everything else starts to fall into place and the stars will start to align how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And when they're not, then you adjust and you kind of pivot from that and you work that way. And so I don't know that I necessarily, when I was making all of these decisions of career-wise or what's next or, leaving softball or then to getting into music, it was never, I don't know that I didn't have the full picture of like this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Majority of the time it's like I have no idea what this is going to look like. And this is what feels authentic to like walk in and walk into. For me, gut is such a barometer of that next step for myself, but also just for like artists in general.
Yeah.
And just showing up.
Love that.
Just showing up, just working. I'm like, you out hustle,
You do.
Yeah.
You have
You
to,
must.
and I'm a big proponent of rest as well, but I'm really terrible at that. So, but yeah, I didn't answer your question about how I take digital.
I was like scooting back a little bit, rewinding the tape a little bit of the numbers and how you were. This is probably back in Universal days, right? When you were saying,
I still do it. I do it all the time. Yeah, a lot of it is just kind of now knowing what to look for, especially in trends of what's working. I think TikTok's been a great converter of obviously followers and streams and across the board, and not even just in music, but just in entertainment in general. And so it's kind of watching of even how that content is formed, right? What that content looks like, even how the depth of how close the artist is to camera, things like that.
Wow.
Then it's like, oh, how close, how far is text, like where everything is. It's a much more intentional and thoughtful kind of approach of like what's working. And then it's taking that and going like, well, how does this make sense? How does this then make sense for Dolly? How do we take this of what's working within this algorithm and go, okay, this is how we need to shoot this. This is how, and being very thoughtful. So it's like worth their time. It's worth their energy. It's worth the doing, and it's going to work.
Yeah. Creating something that's authentic to an iconic artist, especially like her, but that's also strategic in the industry and looks like success in the numbers game.
Yeah.
That's wild. I would have never even thought about like how close up to the artist versus far away on any given shot.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's anything. I'm very much a skeptic at heart. And so I believe nothing at face value, which I have again, I'm sure we could get into that in our next therapy session. But
You're going to be a long-time client.
Yeah. I think because of that, I'm like, why does this work? What about this is making it work when it probably shouldn't, right? Or especially if it's not like if I'm not like resonating with it, but it's clearly working. Right?
Yeah,
and I'm like, why is this working when this has but and sometimes I can feel it and sometimes I can't. But a lot of times when I can, I'm like, what is making this resonate so well?
I think that as a coach about some artists that polarize me, like that are blowing up and I resist. Right? And I'm kind of like, why is everybody so into this?
Oh yeah.
I am like not.
Yeah.
You know, and not that there has to be like a very clear-cut answer that some things are for people and not for others. You are not for everyone.
It's
and
art.
that's okay.
Yeah.
It's art. But I think about it sometimes from a more technical, like less emotional place. I want to sort of see it more like an infographic or, you know, a little bit more not platonically. I don't know what the word is that I'm trying to look for, but like less aesthetic preference and more macro, I guess.
It's funny, I always tell people if you don't want to actually know like my take or opinion on it, like genuinely don't ask, because I'm too close to a lot of it that I take some of the magic out of it. And I think that's part of it is like we lose being on this side of it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to lose some of the magic of it.
Very
true. So
people ask me like, can you not, like when you go listen to a singer, are you constantly thinking about their technique? And
I
there
never
is
think about it.
I have an on-off switch. Sometimes it depends on the artist where sometimes I'm thinking about it. I feel like a lot of times with an artist I love, I actually do think about it a lot because I'm going, I wonder what strategies they use to get to the point where they're doing this successfully and things like that. But I'm not usually listening to something like overly critical.
Yeah.
But no, I get that.
It
People
has to
ask me that a lot.
stand out really bad for me to notice it.
Because it's hard for you to enjoy music.
Yeah. Otherwise, I just go like last night. I'm not gonna say who, but I saw a huge artist, and like I just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And everything about it, I probably shouldn't
so
have.
Good. That's so good. I don't know that I'm there yet. I don't know. I'm the one like this, and I'm like, entertain me.
It's like if I intentionally go to see someone, I'm just gonna go enjoy it. I'm gonna shut this part of my brain off and just go.
Yeah.
If it's like an industry mixer or something, there's probably going to be a little bit of that, right?
I'm sure you see your artists on your roster different when you're watching them perform than people who are not on your artist roster and you're
1,000%.
Right.
1,000%.
Not that you're not a fan of your artist.
I go to a lot of shows outside of my roster, right? And so, and I mean, that's what got me into music. I love live shows. That's what brought me back to Nashville from Dallas. Like, I'm like, oh, I just missed the live shows. I love that. I love, and now I feel super fortunate because I also understand the production of it, and I'm watching, and so and I'm like, oh, the piano player missed that note, but and like nobody else would know this, and so I feel like I have kind of like insider information, as well, that allows me to even probably enjoy it more. And then there's also, of course, a catch-22 to that. There's a flip side of like where I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
But I can still go to concerts. I can still go to shows and just really enjoy it and be like, yeah, this is really fun.
Yeah.
And
maybe
then everybody.
Some tequila helps.
Yeah, of course. But it's whiskey currently. But I'm on a whiskey kick for some reason.
Choose your poison.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say no to either one. So.
I get that though, like from the roster standpoint of your artist, that you're going to look at that more business versus entertainment. Yep. Like, and I'm sure you're like this when you go see an artist that you're working with and you go watch them live. Maybe it's because like we're there warming them up before the show or whatever. I am a little bit more stressed, if that's the right word, listening to it. Even though I expect them to succeed, I am like, because I know what they've been working on. I know the things that stress them out about a song and stuff. And so it's a different experience watching an artist that I've worked with live versus somebody I've never worked with
Yeah, I mean, I think,
absolutely.
especially
Right.
on the, I mean, I have a like financial investment in it, right?
Right.
And I'm like, don't fuck it up. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, and at the same time, it's like, I also know of the level they can be at, right? This goes back to
Yeah.
like setting the bar. And it's
Right.
like, I know where you can be.
Yeah.
I want you to hit that every time. And so I expect that, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and as part of their team, it's also on us to help them if we and we need so we need to be
yeah.
clued
Totally.
into that, because there's too many artists that either push that out or their teammate or their team just starts to become yes people, and then that's never a good thing.
No, and I'm the first to say, especially before I say, I'm
That's
like,
not gonna
I'm
be you.
I'm not. I say that I'm like, I'm not the yes
Yeah.
yes man, and I'm just
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
so
That's good.
I mean, yes, yeah. I mean, it gets me in some trouble, which is okay too.
That's good too.
But yeah, I'm just not, because I just think I want better for you. I don't want
Yeah.
just yes people around me. I want
Yeah.
somebody to be like, hey, you know, like,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, I feel like I'm doing them a favor by not, but that goes back to also the finesse side of things as well. So, but yeah, I'm not the yes. I will always tell an artist, especially when I get sent a song and they're like, this is a hit. And I'm like, I don't think it is.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just because you wrote it yesterday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The one 2 months ago is the hit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's still the one that's, you know, stood the test of time. But, you know, so it's balancing that of like, it's not every song that I get sent is a hit, and not, I mean, very few actually
few
are.
are.
And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I think you can write better. I think you can outright this verse,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's a lot of that feedback, and it's building that trust. It's building that trust with creatives that I'm not just
Yeah.
bashing their art. It's
Totally.
more of
Right.
like, hey, like I really want this to succeed. You know, I want to be sitting on top of the world with you. With
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Because I believe you're here. You would be here regardless, because you're doing this. You're doing music. You're doing this art regardless. And I want to be here with you because I believe in this.
Right.
That's
Like,
amazing.
It's like, let's do this.
Yeah.
That's
So good.
And that, I think, is how people will trust you, as, you know, you're in their corner.
Yeah.
Right? You've got their back. Obviously, there's the financial investment from the label side, and you want that to succeed, but because your heart is for them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you got into music for pure reasons to begin with. It was
Yeah.
more like a deep love of music.
Yeah.
Not like a deep love of accounting, per se.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
got
I mean?
out of that.
Yeah.
I got out of
So it's,
And yeah, it
there's,
serves me well on like the bottom line, right? Of course, even
Exactly.
being able to run an operation. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just, that's what's so moving. That music is so powerful. It is so healing. It can, you know, the fact that we can all sit in a room and talk about one record or one song and be like, oh, we love this, or how this changed my life, or how this
Totally.
affected me, is like such a powerful thing.
yeah.
That it can really reach different cultures. It can reach different, you know, walks of life. And I think that anything that has that power to be able to touch individuals across, you know, cultures and races and, you know, across the board and international lines, like
Yeah.
that is such an incredible power and gift that it's like, yeah, I just want to be a part of that.
Totally.
Make me a part of that.
Yeah. And you are. And
Yeah.
hey, congrats on a
Thank you.
crazy year.
Yeah.
An amazing
Crazy, yeah.
journey that you're on, and you're on top of the world right now. We can't wait to see what 2025 holds for you and
know.
Empire, all your artists.
You and me
And,
both.
yeah, right?
You and me both. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for being with us
Thank you
today.
so much. Thank
you.
it's
Yeah,
been
thanks you guys.
an
You guys are amazing.
chat, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, congrats on
Therapy
all of
session
this.
number 2.
Yeah.
I'll prepare my
Shall we?
heart. I'll
Okay.
prepare my heart a
We'll
little
have
bit.
whiskey next time.
Thank
It'll
God.
be way easier. You'll just
Okay.
ooze
Feelings.
the feelings
Oh
and
yeah,
all this.
that is me. That is me. I love that so much, so much. No, I think I appreciate you guys. So this has
Yeah.
been fun. This is
Awesome.
So
I love
fun.
it.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Heather.
Thanks for
Yeah.
being with us.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vocal Lab podcast. Ready to join the top ranks of the music industry? Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more first-class conversations that make the extraordinary your new ordinary. Until next time, keep striving for your top note.